Welcome to another Learning About Movies lesson. This is number 9 on other shot transitions. We're talking briefly about going from one shot to the next, from one image to the next in a movie. In number 7, we talked about cutting, the very basic way that movies transition from one shot to another. But there are other ways that movies can transition. You can use them in your videos. You can start to look at them, watch for them, and see what they mean, because each of them have certain meanings in certain contexts. So we'll look at fades, dissolves, and wipes very quickly, and I'll show you some examples of that. Here's a shot from the movie Say Anything. We're going to see cutting. There's a cut, and these characters here are driving the man or the kid in the middle home from a late night party. This is like 3, 4, 5 a.m. and they're driving in the city of Seattle. They're going towards the skyline here, and watch what happens. Did you notice this? It's not a cut, so what is that? It goes from one element at night, I'm reversing, to the daytime. So at the moment, and since we don't have the sound on, we don't know when this is occurring. We go from the night to the day. Well, is this daytime 10 years later? 500 years later? Probably not. 3 hours later? The answer is it's 3 hours later because the movie uses sound to indicate 3 hours of time have elapsed from the late night, 5 a.m. to about 8 a.m. here. And these people have been driving around that long. Now, the dissolve then is used to indicate a lapse or passage in time. It's to give you the sense that things have progressed, but it feels a little slow. Note that this is slower than an actual cut, right? So that the lengthiness of that transition makes it feel like time has elapsed, and it sort of simulates 3 hours passing, or it could have done 3 days or 3 years. It doesn't matter, but you'll see dissolves, because the transition is slow, indicate a lapse of time. Another way that dissolves are used is to indicate a dream. So I'll just pause the video here. When a character is dreaming, you'll see a dissolve go into the dream or a dissolve come out of the dream, or both. Sometimes the dissolve is used to indicate going from reality to fantasy, and that would be what a dream, possibly a label for a dream. To go from a reality world to a fantasy world, you might dissolve into one or the other. Okay, so dissolves are used to indicate time and space changes, and some kind of really big time or space change, just 3 hours pass here, 3 days, 3 years, or a leap into another world. Let's look at I think what's going to happen here is another dissolve in this next movie I've got for you, which is the 1946 French version of Beauty and the Beast. So here's the Beast. And here's the father who's run into the castle and plucked a rose. He should not have done that. He's running away. The Beast tells him to leave, go get his daughter. And look what just happened there. There's another dissolve from a 1940s movie. So in other words, let's look at it again. The dissolve is an old technique. It's been used almost since the beginning of movies to indicate this lapse of time. Here he's running away, and now he's on a horse, and he's actually riding in his village. This indicates both a difference in time and in space. He's ridden far away, and time has elapsed here with this dissolve. Okay, so watch for that next time you see a movie, and you can use that in any of your videos that you might make. Okay, now we're going to now we just jumped into Star Wars. This is Return of the Jedi, something a little bit more famous. And in Star Wars, George Lucas and the directors who work for him used all kinds of transitions. Did you see that one right there? Yes, you did. Hopefully you did. It's very noticeable. It calls attention to itself from here, early in the movie Return of the Jedi, to there. Now look, I just paused the video so you can see the desert landscape. You can see the troops down here. This is a longer transition too. It's not just a cut. It's what's called a wipe. So we're wiping from top to bottom here. Now, if you watch any of the Star Wars movies, certainly the first 3 especially, but the prequels as well, you'll see wipes quite often. The question then is, what does a wipe mean? Well, it's when a shot goes in another shot by coming across the screen in some way. This way, this way. You'll see in just a minute a wipe that goes from here down to here from Return of the Jedi. Here's another shot from the movie. There's a wipe. Oh, it went up to the top right there. So you watch this again, and so what does the wipe indicate? To me, again, it's a little bit fantastical, like a dissolve. It indicates that, and I think it's whimsical too. It indicates that some new theatrical scene is happening. It almost, in certain wipes that just go straight across the scene, it looks like a curtain on a theater stage moving across the stage and indicating that this new scene is going to happen. So I think it is a sort of simulation of a theater. And it's a movie calling attention to itself as a movie. It's saying, hey, look at me. We're having fun here. This is a theatrical production, and enjoy this. For George Lucas, I think it was he was hearkening back to the old serials, the Flash Gordon serials, the 1940s, 1930s movies, perhaps that he watched as a kid, which used these kinds of transitions to indicate a whimsical adventure or a new chapter happening in the story. So a wipe, then, to me, is a little bit fantastical and whimsical. Now, a director can use the wipes in a variety of ways, but in the wake of the absolutely massive blockbusters that are Star Wars that changed movie history for the better or for the worse, you have to deal with the wipe in the way that George Lucas used it. So go back and look at the Star Wars movies, if you're going to use the wipe, to see how he used it, and then notice how potent it is as a way to tell sort of this fantastical story or science fiction fantasy sort of story. We're going to go to one more transition here, which is like the dissolve. It's called the fade. And fades are used all the time. You'll see them everywhere. If you've never seen them before, you'll just start to see them. There's a fade right there to black. That is so common that it's used everywhere all the time, in movie trailers, in video games, the fade to black, and then the fade out of black. So I'm going to go back and show you this. Again, this is Beauty and the Beast from 1946, and one of the styles of the movie is to use these fades to black, and then the fades from black to the movie, or back to a shot, all the time. I think in this movie it indicates chapter transitions or section breaks in the movie, and since the movie is a fairy tale, that makes a little bit of sense to me. So let's look at one more time. There's a fade to black, and go from black fading into, you see that it's a little bit slower than a straight cut into a shot. So I'll show you a couple more of these, and you'll just note them all the time. These are used to indicate, as I said, divisions. So here's another scene right here. Use them in your own videos this way. Use them in your analyses this way. Here is a Beauty on the right, Beast in the middle, and then a fade to black, and then fade into this creepy thing here. This is part of the Beast's castle. So this is the second one I've showed you, and now I'll show you a third one. As I said, they're all over this movie. It was a particular style choice, just like the wipe was a style choice in Star Wars. Okay, here it is. Here's the next scene, and then you go from here, fade to black, and then, we cut right into a shot there, and it's moving, so we get a little bit more energy coming into that shot right there. Fade to black, cut into, and the camera's moving instantly. So there's some differences there, but no matter what, we have three different kinds of transitions. The dissolve, the wipe, and the fade. Now there are lots of others. There are lots of other kinds of cuts. Go look them up. Go study movie lingo or director lingo or movie making lingo. You will hear dozens of different kinds of cuts. Okay. The highlight for me is for this lesson is the question of what these mean and why a director would choose to use them. Okay. So here is the heart of it for me as far as transitions in movies. This is, I think, an important slide for you to think about. A basic question: what is a movie? Okay, so I have a number of answers for you. Sometimes movies look heavily realistic. They look like they are actually reality itself. Watch a war movie, for example, and a veteran might tell you that the movie was just like the combat zone that the veteran was in. Okay, a movie might present, say, a storm, a big tornado, and then the tornado might feel realistic. So movies actually seem to be just cameras taking stock of the real world and presenting it to you as if it were reality. Documentaries feel like this. Now, I do not think documentaries are reality at all. They're heavily stylized. they're heavily biased usually. Okay, some are not so much, but a camera is a biased observer. So to say that a movie is reality itself, well, I don't think it is. It's my opinion, but it does seem like reality itself, okay, in a lot of cases. Now, in the case of Beauty and the Beast, no. This is a fairy tale where a man is turned into a beast and he turns back into a man. When did that ever happen in reality? I don't know. I guess it happens when 16-year-old guys grow up and mature, maybe. But as you know, that doesn't really happen. It's only a metaphor for what might happen in real life. So what is this movie? A dream? A fairy tale? Somebody's hallucination of the way reality is? It seems so heavily stylized, so unrealistic, it's completely fantastical. So you have something like a pure documentary that's just a camera set up in the real world and shows you the real world, reality itself. And then you have the dreams and the hallucinations and the things that can't be seen or felt or noticed in real life. So there's a lot of possibilities here, and what I'm doing is telling you reality itself or a total dream, and then all these things I think are in between. There's some combination of reality and the dream, right? If a movie could be just a simulation of reality, but that means it's stylized in some way using the biases of the camera, the angles, the distances, the cuts, and so on. So what am I telling you here? Well, if you're going to use all these kinds of transitions, such as fades and wipes, if you're going to use angles and tilted angles, if you're going to, obviously with the wardrobes and makeup, this makes a big difference, costumes, you can highly stylize your movie, or notice that a director is choosing certain ways to show you fantastical elements that can't be seen in real life. Movies as theatrical productions, usually with transitions like fades and especially with wipes, okay? And again, this is all probably. It happens 80% of the time, I think, with wipes. A clever director can use a wipe in a realistic way, but I do think a wipe is more down here. If a movie uses a lot of wipes, it's probably down here. No pun intended on wipes, or double entendre there. But fades, dissolves, and so on. Camera angles, for sure. Now, a lot of movies are what's called classical movies, and they're sort of right in the sweet spot. Something like It's a Wonderful Life, or any Frank Capra movie. Say Anything, the movie I just showed you, go watch it. It sort of looks like a reality. They look like real people on screen. They look like real 18-year-olds from the 1980s. But it is stylized quite a bit with the music and the angles and some of the other things that go on in it. It's more like this section of things. So this is sort of between, for me, reality and the total dream. Okay. So the question is, what is your movie trying to do? What is it trying to be? And these style choices, as I said, with shots, will make the difference for you as a critic, as an analyst, as a viewer, or even as a movie maker. So there's cuts and other transitions. I'll see you in the next lesson. Enjoy this and enjoy the rest of the lessons. See you at joshmatthews.org for more.